Before the video starts, make sure you follow our socials in the description and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Welcome back to your podcast, people. Back again this week, joined by a very special guest. Amos Murphy's in the house. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited.
Mate, I'm very happy to have you on. So you run the City Report podcast at the moment.
Yes.
You co-run it with. It's called Adam.
Adam Booker,
Yes.
yeah, from Portland, Oregon.
So mental.
Yeah.
So because we found each other via Instagram, didn't you?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not just. I was going through my following list and I was like, hang on, I've not seen that name before. And I was like, I'll just get him. I was having a look at your pod and I was like, why is he American?
How
did you meet him?
Well, I only met him once.
Oh, nice.
So about going back, when would it have been? It was after COVID, so it was about 2021. I was scrolling through my DMs, usually get some all sorts of nonsense from people slagging my writing or calling me biased or whatever, and I could see one and it was quite long, and you know when on Twitter you can only see the first bit, and I'm trying to open it without saying it's been read and trying to see what it said, and it was like, hi, I'm Adam, blah blah blah. Do you think you'd be open to starting a City podcast with me? And at this point I didn't actually know where he was from, not that it would make a difference at all, but we got speaking, we pitched the idea to a few people, eventually landed on City Report, who obviously the aggregate news, they do news stories, previews, etc. And we went to them and said, look, we're looking to start a two-man at the time City podcast. Mm-hmm. Do you mind sort of housing us? We'll do the legwork. Do you mind sort of letting us
usual
crack on with it? Yeah. And so this lad who Adam, obviously at the time he was living in, I want to say Washington or around. It was definitely on the East Coast. He's since moved over to the West Coast, which is 8 hours behind, which can be.
Bet filming's an absolute nightmare.
So we've got
you daily as well, aren't you?
Yeah. So we do daily episodes. So we've got like a window every day of about 3 hours, 4 hours. But to be fair, I can be a bit of a night hawk. I can sort of work through the night. But we just cracked on with it. We started the podcast about. Like I said, it was January 2022 by the time it got up and running. Since sort of amassed a few thousand followers, daily episodes. We've built a team of journalists, YouTubers, fans as well, just sort of regular voices. We do like 25-minute episodes every day, match reviews, interviews with some people as well who we get on. And yeah, it's been a bit of a rollercoaster journey. We met each other for the first time in the most glamorous of locations in South London at Selhurst Park for City versus Palace about a month ago. Yeah,
such
exactly.
a shithole, Selhurst Park.
Exactly, but that's why we met each other first. He came over for a few games because that's the thing. Adam would come over before pandemic.
Yeah.
Twice, 3 times a season. He lived with a family in Whitefield in North Manchester, so he's sort of an adopted Mancunian at this point, and yeah.
I bet that's mental. How you just literally a random Instagram DM has just created a podcast out of it. That's mental. So like we kind of alluded to it there a little bit, but your kind of day-to-day work is journalism, isn't it? So is it sports journalism? Is it branded or?
I'd say probably 80%, 90% football journalism. Mm-hmm. Then when the season stops, a bit of cricket. Bit of other sports here and there.
I do play a bit of cricket myself.
I do.
Do you play as well?
Not for a team.
No.
I never got into it from that age. It was only sort of the last 5 years or so.
Nice.
I've been meaning to. Every summer comes around, I'm like, right, okay, I'll get in the nets, and then
we are looking for players at my team.
Here we go.
I don't play at high level, so I used to play in the Lancs County League, which is a decent level, and I stopped when I was 18. So I now play for Birch Vale, Thornsit in Derbyshire and Cheshire League. It's not like the best standard, but it's just a fun with your mates in it.
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
Just a knock around. But yeah, hey.
Here we go.
We're selling people on it. It's class. And so like, are you freelancing then? Is it
freelancing?
Predominantly freelancing. So like, what sort of companies and apps have you kind of worked on then?
So I've been doing it probably full time now over 2 years straight out of uni.
Nice.
Which has been a blessing, to be fair, because you go to uni and you hear stories of people going to uni and they do a course that they're either not interested in to start off with, or the work just isn't there afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's been ace because I've just come out of university and I've worked full time for the best part of 2 years doing something I absolutely love to do. And so I've been writing for, no major outlets or anything like that, but the likes of online sports sort of companies, outlets, Flashscores, Give Me Sport most recently. So places like that, just covering football transfers.
I mean, it's still massive, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like Flashscores is all my mates are Flashscores.
Yeah.
Downloaded.
Well, there's a bit of
debating
there. Which
ones?
Which app do you use?
Yeah, YouTube did a video on it recently.
Yeah.
Smith.
Yeah, I watched.
You watched Smith?
It was ace when doing the fastest goal.
I was watching it. I was like, here we go. I was like, go on, Footbob. Footbob lost, and I was gutted. I know my mates have been saying for years, being like, oh, Footbob's not the quickest. It's not the quickest. And I'd be like, nah, you're wrong. You're completely wrong. Turns out, Footbob is not the quickest. I was like fuming. So with the Flashscores then, is it City only, or do you kind of cover Premier League or?
Premier League, Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga.
Bet you watch a lot of football then.
Too much. Too much. My missus won't be pleased, but the amount of constant football, and even off work, I think this is part of something that you have to do to be successful in this line of work. You have to sort of consume it, because someone comes to you and says, you know, what's going on in La Liga with Celta Vigo, or what do you think of this player? For example, like Viega, he's a lad who's been linked with City, Liverpool, United at the moment, a player from Celta Vigo, and you know, you see these players pop out the woodworks, and suddenly someone's saying, oh, you know, you cover Spanish football, what's this lad like? Or if it's German football, you know, you have to know it, and that doesn't come from just watching 2 or 3 games a week for work.
So that's good as well, I suppose, because it means that you've got a little bit of a niche market, haven't you? Because like majority of football journalism is predominantly in the UK, isn't it, really? So like being able to brand out into Europe, it just expands the work, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
So do you ever get any like foreign work coming in? So do you get like...
Bits and bobs, yeah.
Nice.
I'd say the league I cover most ardently, the most after English football, is probably the Bundesliga. And part of that is just a fascination with German football in general. Just the
different world, innit?
Culture,
different culture.
Yeah. And that's nothing to take away from English football. I cover Man City and I follow Man City sort of home and away quite frequently, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But when you're in Germany, you're drinking in the stands, it's bouncing up and down for 90 minutes. It's mental.
It's unreal,
it is ace. And sort of part of that is covering the football as well. So a few years ago when England played Germany in the Euros, few radio appearances here and there speaking about German football and stuff like that. So yeah, it comes in handy. It certainly comes in handy.
How do they find you as well? Like being a journalist, is it like LinkedIn or like what's your main?
Oh yeah, good question. Yeah. Well, you found me, didn't you?
It's a very valid point. I found you for Instagram. Yeah. So is it social media like yours too, or
having a presence and stuff like that? I guess helps. Just sort of being active, covering bits and bobs. Tweets help, because if you've got in your bio, I don't know, journalist, and you've tweeted about German football, and someone puts into the search engine journalist German football, you know, it will pop up, or at least you'd hope it would pop up. So just building a presence, sort of building a follow base, networking is majorly important. Sort of if someone's higher up the food chain, giving them a follow, praising the work a little bit, you know, hopefully being honest and saying, you know, I do like you, I enjoy your work. Is there any tips you can give me or anything like that? So stuff like that helps massively.
People want to help, though, don't you? I've found doing this podcast, like some of the guests I've had on, I'm literally like, what is happening? I've had champion boxers and like pro footballers, and I'm like, what are you doing on this podcast?
Yeah, everyone starts somewhere, don't they?
Yeah, I suppose.
Everyone needs that, and no matter how successful or not successful I've got, I'd always give times. I've had people come to me, uni students, or, you know, what can I do, what can I help, and as well being honest about that as well. If something isn't up to scratch, and why would it? You know, a young kid starting out isn't going to be perfect.
Of course.
Say, you know, you would benefit from improving this, or you could maybe try and do this, and I think a lot of it is experience as well.
Have you ever gone back and kind of watched the early episodes of the podcast, all right? Have you actually? I am strictly not doing it.
It's a chastening experience. It's a chastening experience. I think the worst part about it is looking how bad the trims were about 2 years ago in lockdown and stuff like that.
Especially when it's only 2 years ago, when you're like, oh my god.
I know. It feels like.
Did you try and cut your own hair?
Oh yeah, try's the right word.
Tries the right word. It did go very well.
I got hounded by the barbers when I went back in, like almost as if, like, you know, a dog brings home a dead rat or something. And it's like, what are you doing in here? Tail between the legs, sort of thing. So yeah, God, that was a silly time.
Good fun though, it is. It's always good fun. So like, with your podcast, then, what are like the sort of the big interviews that you've done so far? Like, is it just within journalism, or have you got like footballers on, or how's it kind of worked?
Yeah, well, we've tried footballers, and we find out quite quickly that when you go through management and agents and stuff, that not many people are wanting to talk unless you're Sky Sports and Talk Sport, etc. So that, it does help sort of building up from the bottom as well. But, a few journalists, people who've covered the game. I had a great lad, HLTCO, who covers Palace and does a podcast.
Oh, he's on Twitter as well. He's very big on Twitter.
Very big on Twitter. Had a fantastic chat with him before the Palace game.
Nice.
Most recently, and a few people, journalists. We had a lad from the Liverpool Echo who I went to uni with, and he's gone on and done his own thing with Liverpool and stuff like that. So had him on, and a few sort of personalities within the city media world. Community, I don't know, it's a cringy term, but people who've got a decent following and coming on and speaking about stuff like that. So it's a few interesting people. It's nice just to hear people's stories. I think it's ace, and as you know yourself,
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's so and I like it when you just having a conversation, you just go completely off piece. And then they'll tell you something, and you're like, "What?
How on earth?
How are you?" And then you're like, how have you done that? And why have you not mentioned it for the last 45 minutes? Sometimes our best stories are like the last 15 minutes, and barely anyone's watching now. And I'm like, "Oh my god, where's that come from?" Where's that come from? Oh, class, to be fair. So, would you ever be looking to kind of move the podcast to doing something more sort of face to face, or say when and just come over to the UK, you're looking to kind of branch out that way?
It was weird when he came over. So he was there for about 2 weeks, and we said, "Oh, we'll do one episode in person." It was after City beat Leipzig 7-0 at home. So a big talking point, a big moment for the channel as well, because we always find doing the daily episodes and doing a specific club podcast, if you lose, people don't want to listen. Not many people want to listen, but if you win, you're branching into a whole new market, because suddenly people want to consume every bit of content they can surrounding that game. So this Leipzig game was a big one, and obviously he was over. And another lad, Alex Brotherton, who used to work for the MEN, he now does sort of freelancing stuff as well. We were like, okay, we'll do a live show.
Nice.
So a live recording, not live streamed. It was nothing like this. We just literally had one mic and a computer, and we sat in a hotel room, and it was so weird because we were so used to doing it sort of over the computer, and it turned out great. It was absolutely fine, but just that balance went a little bit because everyone was so used to the sort of surroundings, and then we're there passing the mic around and like, do we make eye contact? Do we not? We're in this little dingy, I think it was a Travelodge or something in Manchester city centre, and we're thinking, oh my god. But we've always got plans for sort of growing and getting bigger, which is it's really fun. It's been a really, really fun journey. I think that any work anyone ever does, you have to make it fun, because there's no point. Enjoyable. There's no point. There's absolutely no point if you're not working for the fun of it. Regardless if you're being paid or not. Obviously, there's some jobs you have to do to keep the bills, but if for the majority of it, if you're not enjoying it, there's no point, because then your level goes down, your production levels go down, your quality goes down. People are choosing to listen to you. If it's not good, then you might as well just give up.
Exactly. You've got to do the best as you can, don't you? Especially, and I think people understand like how hard it can be sometimes as well, because especially like I work full time, so I'm a 8:30, 5:30. I'm trying to edit a podcast, edit clips, trying to grow on TikTok. It's
consuming, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard, but it's enjoyable, because at the end of the day, like, this is my hobby. It's not my work, so it's better as well. Because you're kind of doing what you love.
Certainly.
And hopefully it'll go somewhere, but you never know, do you? You never know. So like what's your plans for kind of like journalism then? Is your like dream job going to be kind of being on TalkSport, or more towards like the MEN, or?
You know what? I've been asked that a few times, and I guess maybe it's negligence on my part, but I just don't know. And I think because of the industry I work in, everyone, whatever career they do, they have ups, they have downs. But with sports journalism specifically, you can come out of uni. I knew people out of uni who went straight to national newspapers, and they had fantastic jobs, blah blah, and then maybe 2-3 years down the line they got let go.
Yeah.
Whereas other people have had to sort of start at the bottom and gradually work their way up, and then they might have a big drop. So it is very much like a roller coaster. You have superb
highs. It's quite saturated, isn't it? It's quite a saturated market.
Absolutely. You have superb highs, you have incredible lows, and you don't know how you're going to end up. Some of the top journalists didn't set out in this career. Some of them did. So I think it really does depend. And it's an industry that changes daily. I think even some of the stuff I did at university on the course, it wasn't geared towards modern day journalism in terms of social media age, and they were introducing some of it. But in 10 years' time, who knows what's going to be the main part. Twitter's obviously struggling at the moment with what it is. That was thriving, wasn't it?
That was the one to be, wasn't it?
It's for me anyway, and it probably still is. If in the morning I'm looking for news or breaking news, scroll on Twitter.
I go on Twitter.
Yeah, new transfer story or whatever it may be. Check on Twitter. Who knows in 5 years' time if that's going to be like that? So I think I've never really had an idea that I want to be here in 6, 7 years, 8 years, because I don't know what could happen.
Of course, I suppose you've got to be open as well. With it being like saturated market, if a job comes along, you have to take it.
Yeah.
So, but what about stuff? Because obviously you're doing a podcast, so surely radio's got to be on there for you. Are you interested in kind of doing a radio as well? Or?
Again, I mentioned my missus. She always tells me you need to do radio, football commentary or whatever. And I don't know. I think it's possibly because of the live element of it. I've never tested myself in that environment, so I wouldn't know what it's like. And obviously,
in the same boat, mate.
Yeah, you don't know what it's when you've got the safety blanket of, all right, I can say something, I can cut it out, and I can make a mistake or whatnot.
How often do you cut things out of your podcast, though?
So,
is it often or not? Not at all. Yeah.
Maybe it depends. It depends how I wake up.
But I bet it's not as much as you think it would be.
Possibly.
So I know with this, like I barely cut anything out really.
Yeah.
So I think it's that safety blanket, isn't it? Really? I've been offered to do sort of some streaming, so I think I'm just gonna bite the bullet and just.
You should.
Yeah, so I've been offered to take part. So I've had a couple of Footer Manager creators, and one of the creators has offered for me to do like a streamer, like a draft situation.
Nice.
And I feel like I just need to stop being soft.
Rip the plaster off.
Yeah, I just need to stop being soft and just do it. But it's time consuming. But I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I think as well in the environment, you thrive naturally under pressure as a sort of as a human. You know, you may build yourself up and you might get shaky and whatnot. I've had that a few times with radio stuff where I'm like, oh my god, I'm going on national radio to speak about, I don't know, a football game. You know, I'm gonna blumber, I'm gonna blah blah blah, and then suddenly you're on there and you're laughing and you're joking with the presenters and stuff. It goes really well, and afterwards you're like, that wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad, yeah. You kind of go, that's fine actually, wasn't it? It's best. It's like when you meet people for the first time, you put them in that highest esteem and you start talking to them 5 minutes and you're like, you know what, it's just a normal guy.
Yeah, everyone is, isn't it?
Just normal people. Yeah. Nice. So what would be like your dream interview then? Like, have you got like a top 3 of...
Do you know what? I think
semi-realistic.
Yeah, I think maybe not sort of like the most star-studded name, but I grew up loving Sean Wright-Phillips.
Oh, nice. Of course. He's
our
era, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's our era.
Obviously of that era, and I was heartbroken when he left City. Genuinely heartbroken. I had all sorts of different merchandise because my granddad at the time worked for Adidas.
No, nice.
So, and they provided the boot, so I've got a signed Sean Wright-Phillips boot, a few postcards and stuff like that. I know, prized possessions. I'm still sort of hugging them, making sure
not letting them go at all.
But I think
moving with your missus and you're like, here's Sean as well.
Exactly. But I think as well because I've seen he's gone into the media sort of stuff after his career as well, and his dad Ian Wright, who is another idol of mine. I think he's absolutely class. He's got an incredible podcast called Wrighty's House, where he just sort of, it's like just sort of sitting around a table with some mates, the way he speaks and the way he talks. I think the way they put themselves together, I think if you could have them around a table chatting about the careers, chatting about the history of the game, I think it would be ace. I
think it'd be class. Have you got any more then? So I'd say it's like a top 3. Would they all be football, or because you say you like your cricket as well? Would you have any cricketers in there as well?
I absolutely love Jimmy Anderson's podcast,
okay.
Tailenders. I think that, again, another one who's just absolutely nailed it. The best podcasts I find, there's a market for all sorts of podcasts. It's another saturated one. But the ones I enjoy the most are where a little bit like this, you sat around a table, there's no sort of strict sort of maybe running order, and I find that sometimes with my podcast because we're 25 minutes sort of every day.
You've got to be a little bit.
We're rattling through the news and we're like, okay, here's a point, here's a match review, blah, blah, blah. And the best ones I find for City Report are when we do take the shackles off a little bit and we get a bit more creative and we can have a laugh and we can have a joke and stuff. And we find the balance quite well, I find.
Yeah.
But those podcasts, so I think Jimmy Anderson would be another one, just because I think he represents deep down every sort of grumpy Lancastrian.
Proper Birmingham lad in here. You can do, I reckon. Yeah, he'd be up there for me as well, Jimmy Anderson.
He's so dry and witty as well.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you have a look at some of them. Yeah, that's what you wanted it. For me though, my dream is John Stones.
Oh, well, that could get a bit messy. I don't know why.
Yeah. I just think we've been saying this for a while, and I've been talking to my mates about it. And it's a common age-old question, isn't it? Who do you want to go for a pint with? And my answer's always John Stones. I just think he is.
Yeah, he's ace.
He's just a guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just a normal lad.
Normal lad from Bardsley. Yeah. He just takes a mick out of anything.
I'd probably stick Jack Grealish in there as well.
Oh, yeah, Grealish should be good.
Yeah. All three of them. Kyle Walker as well.
Get him on. Yeah. I don't think. Would you turn any of them? Any City players down? I don't think I would either.
Probably not. To be fair. No, I'm trying to think who'd probably be the most miserable one. I don't think there is any, to be honest.
Yeah, we've got a team full of characters at the moment, which I quite like. We've got there's a bit of a buzz about City at the moment that you've not really had in previous years.
It's nice. Yeah, I find obviously with Guardiola and stuff, the common sort of tag is the robotic nature, and on the pitch perhaps it is, but I think it's Jack Grealish's post-match interviews, he's not the most intelligent, intellectual footballing brain. You know, he's not going to go on and be a manager who transforms football when he finishes his career.
He's not going to be company, is he?
No, exactly.
No, yeah.
But when he speaks, he holds a room so well and he tells it how it is. You know, I think it was after the Liverpool game most recently, he was saying he was feeling sick in the toilets at half-time. He went out and scored a goal, and, you know, football is so polished and media trained, and they know everything to the nth degree of what to say, what not to say. It's nice when you just get a lad who is a lad
who's just normal. It's what you want as a fan, really, isn't it? To see you want to be able to relate to people, and if they're just saying the same old, great game today.
Take one game at a time.
Yeah, we'll take one game at a time. The fans were absolutely class as always. But at the end of the day, it's only 3 points, so we need to move on.
Yeah.
And you're like, God's sake, just be honest. You've just got a last-minute winner. Tell everybody how buzzing you are. I'd be.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd be looking at it, absolutely buzzing. But, so how are you finding like the current sort of era at City then? Because we're blessed at the moment, aren't we? Well, we are watching the best team, probably one of the best teams ever.
100%.
Yeah, so 100%. How are you kind of finding that?
It's weird, isn't it? Because... So when I was growing up as a City fan, I never had it as bad as the previous generations, as you know as well. It was never there was never that many relegations. I think since I've been alive, I've been relegated once with City, but it wouldn't have been one that I remember.
We'd have been really young, wouldn't we?
Like 1 or 2 years old. So it wasn't even sort of, I wasn't even able to compute it or anything like that. It's always been a sort of a general sort of plateauing until the takeover, which obviously
it's always been an upwards trajectory. And
then the takeover comes and it goes absolutely rocketed, and trophies are coming every single season. So it's been a chastening experience, I reckon, because you just sort of you don't know what the expectations, what to think are anymore. Every season you're expecting trophy, while at the same time also being humble enough to realise that it's not a guarantee. So I think there's been some incredible moments. Some of the best days of my life I attribute to City's recent success, which is pretty incredible.
When you talk to your dad about it, that's what I always find. Like, my dad used to follow up and down the country. Like he was there for like the Huddersfield 9-1 was it, and the games
the
like that.
Swindon's away and stuff like that.
Yeah, when he used to go down to like Yeovil and places like that, and you're like, are you a little bit jealous of that though, or like?
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I think I look at the football club now, and it's changed immeasurably. But at the same time, I have this moral dilemma sort of daily, because obviously there are parts of the ownership which I think are rightly questioned, and that even going beyond the City, the money in football is absolutely astronomical. It's crazy. We're speaking about footballers who are earning £300,000 a week.
Yeah.
That'd be good if you could get that in 10 years.
I know, 10 years would take it now.
Yeah, so and this is every single week. You're earning millions a year, and it's sort of like we speak out the normal lads around the table. Well, they're not, are they? But at the same time, they are, and it's sort of it is really weird. And I do sort of think back to those days. I've got a brother actually who's a season ticket holder at Stockport County.
Nice.
Yeah, and my dad and I have been going years, and my mum never sort of got into it, but she was always a City fan as well. Well, ever since she met my dad, by default. But when my brother was born, he's a few years younger than me. We always tried. We took him to City games. He was always sort of maybe interested.
Sometimes it doesn't click, does it?
It doesn't click. But when he got older, he got into his teen years. He started going to county with his mates. And that sort of the camaraderie of standing on the terraces. Obviously, local club, we live in Stockport. So
it's the best part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he loved that, and he got into Stockport County. But I see sort of, okay, the League Two, they're a Football League club, but they still have that sort of that old style ground, an open terrace at one end, a big sort of standing terrace, well, not standing, but seated in terms of people stand there and they make the noise.
I love the Cheadle End.
Yeah,
it's class, isn't it? The Cheadle End is such a class. So I've been to a couple of Stockport games this year. I was lucky enough to do the corporate through work, and it's class. It's such a different. It's like proper football, and it's what I would describe as proper football.
It does fall into that category. And when they're in the National League, actually, a year or two ago, I was covering them for work.
Nice.
So I was doing a lot of the press games, and the press box is literally, it's a bench that I don't think has been changed for about 150 years since the stadium was open. It's solid wood, real mahogany, and it's great. You know, the wires are just interweaving in between the stands, and you get the old fellas who come up at half time, sort of asking what they think of the game and looking for a team sheet and stuff like that. And obviously, you're not going to get that at a Premier League club. So I love non-league as well. I think that's one thing that I always parrot on about, is that the English football pyramid is incredible.
Unique. It's so unique to England.
Absolutely. Just a few weeks ago was at Stalybridge Celtic versus Ashton United.
Go on the bridge.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately,
Stalybridge Celtic in Staley Vegas. My brother used to follow them home and away.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're from Duckingfield, and Duckingfield don't have a team. So my brother went to watch Celtic home and away, and he was the same. Absolutely. Normally, I'd agree with you there. I wish I'd went more.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so protected as well, and from the 9th tier, 10th tier upwards, you're getting crowds of 1,000 people and stuff like this. I mean, there's a big story at the moment, a team from the Isle of Man who recently joined the English football pyramid, and they've been getting like 2,500 on the Isle of Man, and they're playing teams like New Mills and West Didsbury and Charlton.
And they've got to fly. They've got to fly on boat
every game. It's mad.
Mental.
It's absolutely mad. So I think it is. You don't get that in any other country at all, and you wouldn't get that because no one's as stupid as the English are when it comes to football.
no one spends thousands and thousands going. It's like you're watching Hyde United. Are probably I would say they're the biggest supported local teams, like in that sort of area. Hyde United they get not thousands, but they get hundreds every game, and they're die-hard fans. Love it.
And people ask them, who's your Premier League club, and they'll laugh at you.
Yeah, and they'll go, like, no, it's Hyde United. I support Hyde.
That's my club. It's mad. And going back to it with the American side of it, I know a few through work American lads who sort of jump on the podcast and whatnot, and it's crazy just that I try and explain to them about a non-league system, whereas like someone in Stockport who is 10 minutes away from Manchester doesn't support one of the Manchester clubs, and they're like, well, for our NFL teams, you could be 2 hours away from the stadium, and that's our local team. And it's like, well, if I'm 2 hours away, I could get to, I don't know, just past Birmingham, and I'd go through about 150. I'd go through about 150 football clubs by the time I get there.
You drive past quite a few on the motorway yourself. You drive past Walsall, Villa Park. You go past all of them.
Yeah, so it is crazy. It is fantastic, and I just hope that continues. Obviously, going back to the Premier League, Man City stuff, I just hope it doesn't become English football doesn't become just the top two leagues, whatever it may be.
Doesn't become an NFL, doesn't become a franchise. You need to protect their grassroots 100%, especially when you're looking at like teams like Glossop. Let's use Glossop as an example. It's the smallest team or the smallest place to have a top flight club.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
it's mental.
It's so strange. It's absolutely
so mental. Like, it's such a tiny ground. I used to live literally down the road from Surrey Street. And I'd be like, it's fucking mental. You're looking up and you're just like, the quality's still good.
Yeah. I find that interesting, when I've spoken to footballers of sort of lower league and stuff, and I'm always asking, like, what is it that's the difference between you playing in the 5th tier or the 6th or the 7th tier and someone playing in the Championship or the Premier League? And I think a lot of it is possibly mentality.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the quality is that. Obviously, if you're taking a Northern Premier League game and you put it next to a Champions League semi-final, it's going to be a massive drop-off in quality. But from the League One to, I don't know, the 6th tier or the 7th tier, the fundamentals are very much the same. And I reckon a lot of it is, or at least the players say, a lot of it's mentality. When you're feeling down, you're still going out and training, and you're putting in the hours and you're putting in the effort, and that's when you sort of get that's what separates the good from the absolute best, which I find fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's consistency is what you look at. Like when you see some of these goals that are scored in non-league, like the one I use quite frequently is #United, just because they're the easiest ones to kind of relate to. But like some of the goals, some of the players that they've got playing for them, like you're just like this is class.
Yeah,
they are still very good. It's just that consistency, probably, Mark. Well, should we have a little bit of a break and we'll come back for part 2?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to dive more into sort of like non-league and covering what life is like being a reporter on a match day.
Yeah.
See you in part 2. Part 2, and we are back again. No changes as always. It's just literally
change.
No outfit. What one day I might do that, you know. I might just completely change, or I'll just completely change something and just see how many people watch to see what's happening.
Change some of the background. See, you should take some stuff away, spot the difference.
One thing I want to get is do you know when them like roller?
Oh yeah.
Things. I want to get one of them, and I had a look, and they're not that expensive.
Nah.
Just so I can get like an offbeat podcast. So I don't know, have like a few guests, but ex-guests.
Need someone to donate one.
Just,
anyone out there?
Can you make one? That'd be fantastic. Class. So yeah, we were discussing a little bit about football and stuff in the sort of in that first part. So, with the current City situation as well, and like the current media situation as well, do you think that the sort of fan channels, fan podcasts, you know, AFTV and all that sort of stuff, what do you reckon does that have as big influence on the game nowadays? Do you reckon, or?
It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating because I think if you think back 20 years or so, journalism was quite a binary industry. Write for a newspaper or you do a radio show, and that was the sort, you know, you'd ask a person or a player or a manager a question, they'd give you an answer, that was it. Nowadays, I suppose anyone can be a journalist with Twitter, with TikTok, with sort of all social media, and as well as starting your own channel as well. I think you can get into it. There is no barriers, which is fantastic because we're seeing all sorts of. I think, you know, for example, you mentioned Arsenal Fan TV were one of the pioneers in that, and you have to give them credit as sort of outlandish as some of the stuff is at times.
Yeah, of course.
They've sort of really
it works.
Yeah, they've pioneered, and people want to listen to that because I think nobody. What I find in my line of work is, and something that I find struggle to adapt to or sort of necessarily understand, is when journalists are sort of. They don't necessarily show any form of loyalties to one football team, which is fair enough. You know, some people genuinely don't have a football club, and they have been working in this, and they've been sort of numb to the team they used to support. They don't get to follow it, blah blah. But I think those who do, and we know they do, because either they covered it for the sort of before they went into, I don't know, a major broadcaster or whatnot, or a major newspaper. Like, we know you used to go and watch Liverpool. We know you used to go and watch Chelsea, whatever it is. Just embrace it, because I think...
Of course, yeah. You need to be proud of it.
Yeah. Everyone, or most people get into football through supporting a team. And it's no shame, I don't think. I would trust myself to be able to write on Manchester United without sort of letting any sort of bias bleed into it, because I can watch a game and I can go, oh, Varane's made a good block, or Garnacho's done a good dribble, or, you know, whatever it may be. If you ask me about my opinion on them off camera, it might change a little bit, but I think that's just sort of the natural football fan.
He's shit.
Yeah, what a waste of money that was. But I think, you know, and the same for City. I would be able to, and I've been told off multiple times by people on Twitter for criticising Guardiola or football or City or, you know, whatever it may be. Not necessarily saying that they're ultimately absolutely terrible and they should be dropped or they should be sold or whatever, but, you know, but just saying Guardiola might have got it wrong. And you know, some fans don't want to hear that, which is fair enough, but I think with the fan channels, going back to it does give that outlet that supporters want to see, and you know, from a media point of view, it drives interactions, it creates great debates, because it does get heated. We all have opinions, and then when you take someone who isn't polished with the media training and stick them in that environment, it gets fantastic, and it is good viewing. So you can see why, you know, people bemoan it. I think Gary Neville a few years ago randomly dropped AFTV into one of his post-match rambles and said, they're to blame for Arsenal's woes or whatever. And
it's bollocks.
Yeah, they've got nothing to do with it.
Of course they've got nothing to do with it. You see it all the time as well. Like, it's like looking for another excuse. Like, why can't people, if they have an opinion, if you don't want to watch it, just don't watch it. Yeah. It's that simple, isn't it, really? Like, they're not, like, the thing I always find with places like, I don't know, Arsenal Fan TV is the biggest one and all them sort of, they're not doing any harm.
No.
It's like the Anfield agenda. I don't watch any of that. I swipe straight off it because I think he chats a load of shit and he knows fuck all.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion, so I just swipe past it. I'm never going to comment and just be like, I hate you, you. Just don't, just ignore it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
And
I had someone recently, I think there was an incident with Harry Kane.
Yes.
Who maybe sort of he got I can't remember the Everton player, but an Everton player got sent off and he got sort of smacked in the face a little bit. I don't know, jury's out.
I know, I watched that game.
And the reaction to it was mental. Essentially, an Everton player put the hand in Harry Kane's face and he got sent off, which by the letter of the law is a red card.
It was a red card.
It was a red card. At least I thought so. And I made a comment on Twitter saying the reaction to this is exactly why England will never win anything at international level, because there's people who still think the game's played in the 1800s with gentlemen who have to behave properly and they cannot have any sort of bad arts or streetwise nature, whatever. And someone quote tweeted it a day or two after going, they tagged me at Amos Murphy _ is the reason why journalism is in the gutter. He is the problem with this industry, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you could have scrolled past it.
It's not that deep.
I didn't need that. No,
it's not that deep.
Exactly. And it made me laugh, actually. It really made me laugh. But it's crazy just how annoyed people get.
Yeah, and I don't get it. No. It's like I was saying about that TikTok clip we've had, and people just arguing with each other. Yeah. And I'm like, why are you spending 15 minutes of your day arguing with someone who you're never going to meet?
No.
You don't know. Irrelevant. It doesn't really matter.
So
People's minds are just odd, aren't they? You're just like, what is happening here?
Yeah, it's so funny.
But then again, it kind of does give you a job at the end of the day. It's that also works as well from that side as well. So, have you worked with any of the sort of major City sort of fan channels? Do you have like the City Watch guys off the top of my head? Have you worked with any of them?
Some City Extra lads as well.
Yes, City Extra,
fantastic stuff. I actually played football with them.
Nice.
We did a 5-a-side game last season, City Report versus City Extra. This was just as the sort of podcast started out, and it didn't go too well for the City.
Did you get battered?
A little bit. I actually went to uni with a lad who worked for City Extra at the time, and I think he ended up with like 6 or 7 goals.
Oh Jesus!
I bagged 4 myself, so I was going home after it. I'm blaming my teammates now after this bit.
Individually, you shine.
Yeah, but the great. I think. Mark Goldbridge actually recently, or maybe a year or two ago, said City are a small club because they don't have any fan channels. Which, if you're judging the size of a football club because they have a bigger fan channel, then football's not for you. But I think not necessarily on the back of that, but since then there have been some younger lads who've started out sort of. Just videos, channels like, it can be homegrown, it can be organic, and I think it's nice to see people getting the rewards for their efforts, and like you say, you don't have to watch it if you don't like it.
Just
you can go elsewhere. There's enough out there for people to find their entertainment or whatever elsewhere. But there's some good lads in the city one. So it's nice to see.
There's a few like TikToks that I'm not City related, but I've been watching a few. Like I like Tom Garrett.
Oh yeah,
Tom Garrett's very good.
He makes me crazy.
I love Tom Garrett. I think he's class. Now he's on pitch side as well. I'm looking at him as like, you deserve that. People like Jamie Seagull, the West Ham, going up and down the country.
His little vlogs.
They're the ones that I choose to watch. Like people like Goldbridge, I really don't agree with anything he says.
No,
because. I don't see him as a proper 40 fan. That's just my opinion, so I leave him alone. I'll never message you and be like, you're a twat.
You're the reason why you're
the reason why modern journalism. Maybe I'll try and do that and see what happens.
Yeah, possibly.
We'll go for that. I might just start being hateful and just see what happens from there. Class. So, like, say, of like your previous sort of City years then, what team do you reckon is probably the best City team that you've seen, do you think?
It's interesting because I think if you were to look at even under Guardiola, every title-winning team has been different in some capacity.
So different, yeah.
In 2017-18, the first one, the 100 points one, you obviously had David Silva playing as sort of this converted advanced midfielder. You had Kevin De Bruyne playing a different role. Fernandinho was at the base of it. Fast forward till what was last season, you had obviously Rodri doing that.
Yeah.
Kevin De Bruyne was then obviously deployed in a completely different role than before.
You had the inverted fullbacks.
We've had strikers, we've had no strikers. Obviously, at the moment, Erling Haaland is very much a striker. So I think if I'm to go back to it, and what the football team that I think was the best the best title-winning team, as much as I loved the 11-12 and the 13-14 teams, I don't think they had anything on the Guardiola teams. And that's obviously just credit to Pep and the players he had. I think 2018-19 was the one where I looked at and went, that football was probably the most liquid.
I'd agree, yeah.
Yeah. You had Leroy Sané, you had Raheem Sterling banging 20 goals a season, you had Aguero, who was probably maybe not the best season he had in a City shirt, but certainly under Guardiola, that was his best year. The midfield as well. David Silva had really nailed that role down in central midfield, and the defence. I remember Laporte having some great games. John Stones clearing off the line. Everyone's favourite, Johnny Stones. He was clearing off the line every week, making these last ditch blocks. Company scoring that worldie against Leicester, which I think probably is one of the most underrated Premier League moments of all time.
Agreed. I had such a good view there.
Yeah, just behind the goal.
Mate, my view of that,
you weren't the lad walking out, were you?
No, I had a perfect view of that where I was like straight down the pitch, and I saw it fly into the corner. We've seen some good goals there. But I would agree with that. I think, I've said it for a while, I think that 18, 19, 100 Centurions, I think that's probably one of the best teams I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That, I'd probably top 3 teams I've ever seen, probably that. The Barcelona team, what was it, like
2010-ish,
2010-ish, when you had David Villa, Messi,
Pedro,
Xavi Iniesta, Busquets.
Good players then, weren't they?
Fucking joke on it. You're looking at it, you're like, wow, unreal team.
Yeah.
And then, I don't even know what the other...
I know, and
great teams.
I think that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Because the common line there is obviously Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
I will be very interested to see when he leaves the Premier League what his legacy is, because I think, to do a bit of a prediction, I reckon he could be up there with Alex Ferguson, if not surpass Alex Ferguson's legacy. And obviously Ferguson had the longevity and the sort of being in the Premier League for 20 odd years, winning however many titles, double figures, whatever it was. But in terms of the impact on English football, I think we only really see Guardiola's legacy when he leaves, and we're sort of reduced to the regular 85-point title winning campaigns instead of the 95. And football is a much simpler game without Pep Guardiola. So I think he'll sort of definitely leave an impact.
Definitely cement it. I agree with that. But you look at like Fergie's just an anomaly of what he did. I watched one of Pep's interviews recently. He did it with Rio Ferdinand, I think.
Yeah.
And when Rio was asking him about why he changed his team so much. And his response was just brilliant. Yeah. How he was just like, how many times did you win the league? 6. He went, yeah. How many of them teams were the same? None.
Yeah.
It's impossible. You can't win a league 2 years in a row with exactly the same team. No. Because you won it once. Like, why you just kind of, it's just human nature to be like, oh, I've done that now.
I know. And we've seen that at City. Players come in, players go out. I think the Haaland ones, if City win anything this season, will sort of go down as a masterstroke, because
he's a freak.
But even in the games where last season City would have dropped points, Haaland pops up, he has 10 touches a game and scores 2 goals. Yeah. So it's he's not the best footballer in the world.
No, he's not. Yeah. No, he's not.
In fact, you'd probably say he's a pretty average footballer in terms of what he does off the ball, what he does with the ball at his feet, but he's an incredible generational world class, probably one of a kind. When he retires, I think we're looking at numbers that will maybe not be touched by any other players bar Ronaldo, bar Messi in the European game. And he's in the box, he scores goals, and he gets criticism for being a tapping merchant, but if it was that easy, why hasn't, I don't know.
Yeah, I saw your clip on that.
Nikola Zigic done it. Yeah. There's players who in the past who've never been able to score that amount of goals. So if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it.
I was thinking about like Erling Haaland recently, and I think even physically and Just physically, he's not the best footballer I've ever seen.
No.
But mentally, I think he's the best footballer I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I've never seen someone be able to find a gap or a space as easy as he does.
It's crazy.
Every run he makes is a good one.
But he's 6'4". How does he go? How do people
no
not
sense.
pick him up?
He doesn't. It makes no sense. But the thing that he does amazingly is he changes his like, aspect. So one run will be to the back post, one will be to the front post, one will stay in a penalty spot, one will be on a 6-yard box, he'll wait on the edge of the area, and then he'll get the ball, and he just twats it as hard as he can. And all he does is just hit the ball as hard as he possibly can a lot of the time. Yeah. And it works for him.
Simple game when you put it like that.
It's a simple game, but he just finds space so easily, and I think that's... But he's had Project Messi like, built into him from a young age. I bet as soon as he was born, Alfie was like, football, go.
Off you go. You go. And I find most interesting about Haaland as well, he's from a football nation that isn't necessarily as established on the European stage. And in fact, there is a very real possibility, I think it's changing with the number of teams in the World Cup, but I throw Martin Ødegaard in there, his teammate from Norway. Very real possibility those two could never play at a World Cup.
Which is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, just
it's
because
amazing.
Norway aren't as good as as other teams on the European stage. Obviously, with the 36-team World Cup, I think it is, or something, or 42 or something like that, it possibly will change and they'll get an opportunity there. But this is a lad who grew up in a little rural village in Norway who is now idolised across the globe. I find stories like that in football fascinating.
I love it as well. I love them sort of stories. It's like they are real life Football Manager. Yeah. It's what would happen in your Football Manager save, where you randomly in 10 years' time. Yeah. You just have like a Bosnian guy who just wins everything, and you're like, where's that come from? They are literally like a real life Football Manager.
Yeah, he's living everyone Football Manager's dream. With the wonder kid.
He's that wonder kid you always want in there straight away. And I remember you saying about you following England as well as kind of following City. So did you follow England home and away as well? Or
not as much. No. I think I've over the last few years had a bit of a reckoning with the England team. I remember in 2016 for the Euros. Sort of the Iceland game, looked at it, thought, oh my God, what am I doing watching England? Why do I give them time? Why do I even care? And I think a lot of the time, big fans of big clubs don't necessarily follow the national team as much because they get success from the domestic team or whatever. Yeah. And I think it's often the smaller clubs who follow the national team, whatever. But I looked at it, I was like, the football is just incomparable, blah, blah, blah. And I think since Gareth Southgate took over, he gets a lot of stick, but World Cup semi-final, Euros final, World Cup quarter-final. There is no English manager in the last sort of 30, 40, 60 years, even going back, that can sort of put up that record. So I think recently that admiration, that connection, and a lot of it goes back to the players we were speaking about who are nice people. Although he's a United player, Marcus Rashford is one of the guys in football. He's
so annoying, Rashford. Because you can't hate him.
No.
No one's got a bad word to say about him. He's just a nice guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's someone who's using his platform. He don't need to do that. He could pocket his wage every week and he could go home and he can have a simple, happy life. And not to say anyone who does that as a footballer is a bad person and he should be out campaigning for social injustice. It's not up to them to do it. But I think with Marcus Rashford, he's used his platform to such a positive impact when he is succeeding in an England shirt. I will caveat, not necessarily a United shirt. I find it, I do enjoy it at the World Cup when he was scoring them goals. I enjoy seeing players who look or at least feel like nice people doing well on a global stage. So I think I attribute a lot of praise and a lot of credit to Gareth Southgate. And I know he gets a lot of stick, and he's not the best manager in the world. Let's face it, he's not the best coach in the world, but he's turned England into a team regularly qualifying for knockout at tournaments, and I think that's probably, after Roy Hodgson in 2016, all you could really ask for.
Yeah, the way I look at it is they're one of us. Yeah. Like, majority of them players, you look at them and you're like, you're one of us. Yeah. Like Rashford is one of us.
Yeah,
it's just
a
normal
lad from Manchester.
Yeah, working class lad, grew up, had a bit of hard times growing up, and now he wants to make a change. And you're looking at it and you're like, you just respect it. Same with most of that team. You look at Jack Grealish, exactly the same boat. John Stones, exactly the same boat. Kyle Walker, Jordan Pickford. The list goes on. I feel like when you have a team that get along so well, it helps. That always hampered us in previous years. Yeah, that always helps us. So what? See, I'm one of the Southgate is Not very good. Brigade.
That was a clean version.
Yeah, I was trying to learn it. I've had many an argument with my friends about this, but I think if we had a different manager, I think we should have won.
Who though? Who would have done it?
See, that's the thing.
Because international football, the way I see it is like we're in the golden age of club football, and the best managers want to manage the Premier League. They want to manage the Champions League.
Exactly.
That's where the money is. That's where the talent is. International football no longer has that sort of pedigree. There's a reason Mancini's at Italy in his 60s, looking dapper on my head in those Gucci suits or whatever.
He's such a good looking man.
I know. He should say something for the rest of us. But there's a reason those managers go into it later on in life. I think Enrique at Spain was maybe an anomaly. He went into it a bit earlier on, but Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, those sort of names.
They were the people I would look at. Eddie Howe was perfect 3 years ago. Before,
would they say to it? Would they say
well,
yes
not now,
to it?
but before the Newcastle job, I honestly think he could have done there. I've liked Eddie Howe for, again, he's just a normal guy.
Yeah.
And I think he understands the game perfectly. He understands that it's not the case of build a group of individuals. It's all about building a team. What he's doing at Newcastle is amazing. And
it's superb.
I feel like it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's not about the money.
Yeah.
He's made Dan Burn look like Sergio Busquets from time to time.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at it like, because we all know the job, they do the job that they need to do, it works well. But if Eddie Howe would have managed that England team, I think we could have won anything. Especially when, think about it, we do have the best squad in the world.
Absolutely.
And that is a fact.
But that doesn't always sort of translate to
Correspond,
international football, does it? Because you remember that World Cup final, which I'm still sort of struggling to get over a little bit. I have flashbacks of that Martinez save, because I was desperate for Argentina to win it. As soon as England went out, I was sort of tunnel vision. I want Lionel Messi with the World Cup in his hands. That's what I want to remember football by. And I'm thinking that Martinez save and the last minute break, and I lived that game as if I was an Argentina fan. But those individuals, Kylian Mbappe almost drags France, a terrible, terrible, terrible French team on the day in that final. He drags them to a World Cup, sort of on the brink of another World Cup. And I look at the England team and I think the only one who possibly could get to that level of Mbappe, of Lionel Messi, is Phil Foden. However, I think he's not. I say this as a lad from Stockport. He's not a lad from Stockport when he steps on the football pitch.
Agreed.
He's not an English footballer. He's almost as if he's this little Brazilian samba style. Yeah,
and he's like a Brazilian Spanish hybrid,
English
isn't he?
lad. Yeah. He's like, something's gone wrong when he was born. They switched the bodies or something in Stepping Hill Hospital. They've got it wrong. But I look at him and the way he plays football, and he understands. Well, Guardiola says he doesn't understand it enough to sort of play midfield, but he understands the tempo. He understands when to go, when to drop, when to play a skill, when to beat a player, when to pass, etc. The only criticism I would have of Gareth Southgate, a major criticism, is not building a team around Phil Foden.
Yeah.
But it also makes sense because you're not going to have those players every week when you go to an international break. You might be injured, and what do you do then? You can't just abandon your plans because the one lad's gone. So I think I would love to see in the next sort of 5, 6, 7 years England get the best out of Phil Foden, because I think he could be that man like Messi, like Mbappe.
I mean, you look, if Foden left side, your right side started with Saka.
Yeah.
We've literally got the two.
Harry Kane, who can score goals for fun,
It's a joke. He's going to sign for United in summer, isn't he?
Oh, terrible.
He's going to sign for United.
Yeah, you'd think so. They'd be daft not to.
I honestly think if he signs for United, they're winning something 100%.
Yeah,
it's just written in the stars there. They need that goal scorer, and he's going to. But I think I would argue and say I think Saka needs to be the person to build around. He is ridiculously good.
Would you have him above Foden in terms of? There's a debate, isn't there? Is there always?
If he was at City, he would start over Foden, in my opinion.
Wow.
I think he is technically one of the best footballers in the world.
He's incredible.
He's
superb.
I've never seen someone look so easy doing something that's like ridiculous. Like the way he beats. I remember his performance against Tottenham in North London Derby recently, and I watched the game and I was like, there's no one near him. He's playing on a pitch with Harry Kane, with Martin Odegaard, top quality players, and he's the best by far. And you're looking at him like, he's mentally good, and he's also got the brain as well, which I think works. And again, he's a nice lad.
And another nice lad.
Another good guy. Yeah. But again, I think that technically he's going to be a superstar. And if if he was at City, I think he could like easily be pushing for like a Ballon d'Or or something. Like he's stupid good. I saw a really good question on TikTok recently, and it was, who do you think is a bit of an outside shot at being a Ballon d'Or winner? Who would you choose in world football?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we've had the Lionel Messi Ronaldo era, which I think is coming towards.
Say in the next 5 to 10 years, who do you reckon could be?
The natural successor you feel is probably Mbappe. And,
Yeah.
and I wonder if we'll get into a point now with Mbappe versus Haaland where that will be the next Messi-Ronaldo conversation. Not in the sense of, the quality and the levels all set, but just in terms of the two figureheads. Because I think football's getting to that point now where a lot of it isn't to do with the teams, a lot of it isn't to do with the sort of the players within the system, it's to do with the individuals.
Yes.
And I think that's why Haaland's been such a success at City, because he is an individual who can stand out and drag a team to a win. So I think maybe we are getting to a situation where, say for example, if City went on to win a Champions League with Erling Haaland, and the thing is with Mbappe though, he's stuck in Paris with PSG, and I don't know if you could give him a Ballon d'Or for simply winning Ligue 1. You're gonna have Kylian Mbappe is gonna have to win a Champions League, and he's gonna have to drag PSG to Champions League to be in the Ballon d'Or conversation, unless he wins a European Championships or a World Cup with France.
World Cup.
The outside shot, I think. Possibly, if City can again win the Champions League with him at the club, would be someone like Kevin De Bruyne. If he has one of them seasons, which he currently is having, where he's getting 20-odd assists, sort of 30-odd goal and assist contributions.
He's in the running for it this year.
Absolutely.
I think he's in the running for it this year. Well, what about players? I could see like a Phil Foden doing it. If Phil Foden won the Ballon d'Or in 5 years' time, I think...
Yeah, that's his next level.
I think it's his next level.
Because what else has he got to do?
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
22 years old. He's won the Premier League. He's won, obviously, the European Cup is the one that eludes him so far. But
he's gonna win it. Let's be honest here. Like, people are gonna mock us and be like, "Oh, where's European Cup?" Right, Villa. Shut up.
Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, shut up. Tim Pot everywhere. But he's gonna win it. He just is, isn't he? That's just a fact in my opinion. But someone said, and I really, I agree. Someone said on TikTok, it was a big creator, they said Darwin Núñez. And do you know what? I can see that.
A Ballon d'Or? Darwin Núñez.
In like 5 years.
I love him. You know what?
I think he's so much better than people say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, again, going back to the social media side of it, it's easy to stick together.
Agreed,
a 2-minute compilation of him fluffing his lines. Raheem Sterling is another perfect example of this, where he'd have the odd chance which he'd miss from 5 yards out.
Oh, Núñez is better than Sterling. I think so. Sterling was the most frustrating player I've ever watched in my life.
He was frustrating, but he still... Maybe this was under Guardiola, but he still managed to bag 30 goals a season. And he's had a really tough first year at Chelsea. He moved there wanting to be the main man.
And he's just,
And alongside the other 75,000 players this time, he's obviously not been able to. I still think... Yeah, the misses for Sterling will always hamper him, because, again, you see the compilations. Darwin Núñez, though, he's an absolute agent of chaos. He's almost like he's from a Marvel film.
He's just similar to Haaland, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
He'll just make a chance out of nothing. All right, he's shit at finishing. He's an awful finisher. Awful. But I think he should just adopt him in like a Marcus Rashford role, coming in from the left flank. Just tell him, whenever you get the ball, hit it as hard as you can. That's what Rashford does. Rashford's shit at finishing.
Like FIFA 14 when you just finesse from the halfway line. He is. I think he is finding more success off that left hand side for Liverpool, and it'll be interesting when they go into next season. Obviously, it's looking like they won't get Champions League, or at least if they do, it will probably be scraping fourth at the last minute. However, they're going to need a massive rebuild. So he's going to have to step up, because they spent 60-70 million on him last summer, and he's going to have to be the man, because Mohamed Salah is one of the best Premier League players of all time, I reckon. But he's getting towards the end of his days, and he can't do it all on his own. I think that's probably Liverpool's biggest problems this year, is relying on him too much. So Darwin Núñez is going to have to chip in with the 25 goals.
Yeah, he needs to, doesn't he? At least he needs to be getting 20 assists or something like that. He needs to go up another way. But I could see him being amazing in a good few years.
Kick on,
especially if you look at what Salah did when Salah was at Chelsea. It's the same boat. People, if you'd have said to when Salah played for Chelsea, if you'd have said at that time, "Oh, there you go, 30." there's a record holder for the most goals scored in the Premier League.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Not happening,
No
is it?
chance. No chance.
Football can change like an instant, can't they?
Yeah.
But I would look at the players like that, and I think could be easily stepping up. People like Ødegaard, he's mint as well.
He's fantastic. I really almost David Silva-esque in that sense, in those little pockets just in front of the sort of the number 6 and the 8. He can operate sort of wherever he wants, really. Yeah. I think he's probably the next player we'll see go to a Kevin De Bruyne level in the Premier League in terms of stepping it up to a degree
that
next
step,
yeah,
the world class step is what I'd say.
Where you compare other great midfielders, are they on the level of Kevin De Bruyne? Are they on the level of Martin Ødegaard? I think that's probably where he gets it. And he's left-footed. I think that's... I love a left-footer. It just looks so much better.
Everyone loves a left-footer. That's why Leighton Baines had a career.
Exactly. It's like a nice little off-spinner in cricket, you know? When,
it's not, Graham Swan.
It's not even that hard of a skill, but when someone can nail it down or someone has the left foot, they just find a different side.
Yeah. 100%. I like a left-handed bat as well. Left-hand opening bat. That's for me.
Yeah, left-hand, right-hand is great, isn't it? It sends the bowler into a frenzy.
Definitely.
Switching the field every time.
It's a nightmare, my bowler. I hate it. It's shocking. But yeah, there's sort of some of them names floating around there. But the one that I think is a bit of a dark horse that I think could win a Ballon d'Or in 5 years, Jack Grealish.
I like it. I don't know what I can't imagine his celebrations if he did. Though.
Imagine. His career, he ruined it.
A 5-week-long bender after that. But
I have an argument all the time with the lad who sits behind me to about Jack Grealish. Because he's not a Jack Grealish fan, and he lets everybody know. But I have never... Jack Grealish doesn't give the ball away.
It's incredible.
I've never seen someone have a centre of gravity, because he's a big lad.
Yeah, he's
and
built.
He just doesn't give the ball away. Okay, he's not a Marcus Rashford. He's not going to beat 4 men, score a goal like that. He's not direct, but he's perfect for that Guardiola situation.
Yeah, and people say he's not a Pep player. The line that you always hear people say, he's not a he's a great player, he's not a Guardiola player. Guardiola's killed his creativity, which is absolute nonsense. I think he got a lot of stick in his first season because he ended the campaign, I think it was 10 goals and assists combined. But
stats are not football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even beyond that, you look at the underlying numbers, which I know gets a lot of people's noses up because, expected goals, expected assists, blah blah. But it's something that top scouts look at. It's crucial. And he had his best ever season for that. And obviously this year, post World Cup, he's really kicked on. I've always been an ardent Grealish sort of supporter. Agreed. In the sense that even last season when he wasn't getting the goals and assists, his ball retention, like you say, is incredible. The way he ticks over, and you take Grealish out of the City team, you notice it.
Of course,
because
you do.
Suddenly,
There's a hole there.
Yeah, you mentioned Foden, you mentioned Grealish. These are two diametrically opposed players. Because Foden doesn't know when to sort of...
He's directing, he's straight
100 miles an hour.
Yeah,
and he has got better at learning when to take a player on, learning when to pass. But at his heart, if you give him the ball in front of a defender, he's going to run at him. Whereas Jack Grealish might make those sideward passes, but it's those sideward passes that lead to an opportunity on goal. Yeah. So,
okay, is to put it into real life context. Phil Foden is a TikTok 30-second video, straight to the point. Don't mess around with it. Whereas Grealish is a podcast, hour-long podcast where you're getting all. Yeah. He's got all these different sort of arseholes there for him.
And you need to watch the 90 minutes.
Yeah, you do.
To find
you need to watch because it's mental how he just doesn't give the ball away. And him and Ake on that left side. It's the best left side in world football now. Yeah. You said that.
I know.
A year ago.
And Nathan Ake, who's had a sort of stop-start career at City. A lot of people snubbed him when he turned up from Bournemouth. They'd just been relegated. City spent close to £50 million on this player who'd just gone down into the Championship. But you've really seen this season when City have adopted the new system how important, how crucial Nathan Ake is. And I think I think he is probably the best left-back in the world.
It's mental when you say that. It's so mental. He's another one where he just doesn't do things wrong. And you're looking at it and you're like, how are you making the right... he's pocketed Kingsley Coleman, who's probably had the best career of any player ever. He's won the league every single year he's played football.
He's got a World Cup to show for it as well.
And you're looking at it, and Nathan Ake just made him look like...
a player.
Yeah, made him look like Almiron. There we go, Grealish reference right there.
God, the Newcastle fans.
Get him raging. Well, we don't have a big Newcastle following it. But yeah... Well, that has been a fantastic pod, mate. Really enjoyed having you on.
It's been
fun. We'll get you back on again, mate.
I'd love to, man.
I've really enjoyed that. But yeah, anything you want to shout out?
My mum and dad. Class people.
Cheers for going there. So is it Amos Murphy on all social media?
Amos Murphy _ on every platform. Come and listen to me talking nonsense most of the time on various different social medias. But yeah.
And then it's the City Report pod as well.
Yeah, City Report pod.
On there, and that's on all social medias as well, isn't it?
Correct.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for coming in again.
Pleasure.
If you have been watching on YouTube, make sure you head down below, comment, give us your opinion about City, because why not? Let's get a conversation going. Tell me if you think I'm talking bollocks. I don't care. Make sure you like the video and subscribe as well. We're pushing for the 300 subscribers, nearly getting there now. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a 5-star review. Really, really helps out the podcast. But yeah, and we shall see you hopefully next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.